And you were listening to Season 6 of the award-winning Christian Outdoors Podcast with your host, Pete Rogers. All right, thank you for joining me here on Christian Outdoors Podcast. Once again, I'm Pete Rogers, your host. And today we have with us Mr. Chad Davis. And Chad has a very interesting bio. I'm going to read it here, what he sent to me here, so just bear with me while I do that. Chad was born in West Tennessee and grew up hunting and fishing and running trap lines. Man after my own heart here. With his dad early as he can remember. And it started with the Winchester 30-30 and soon led to the bow and arrow. By the time he was in middle school, he would spend countless hours scouting and hunting on their family farm. His hunting did eventually take a back seat, though, as a newly kindled love for fitness, which all stemmed from being made fun of by being one of the smallest kids in his 7th grade class. But he was always had an addictive personality and gave every endeavor 100% of his time and efforts. And this love and drive of fitness later led to him winning the ANPPC Teenage USA and was awarded the USA Teen Bodybuilder of the Year at age 18. He went on to win numerous other shows and eventually opened up a personal training center just outside Nashville, Tennessee after college at the young age of 24. This allowed him to work with and train various music stars, pro athletes, and top corporate executives, which enabled Chad many long-lasting and meaningful relationships, along with a plethora of early life lessons and opportunities. Eventually, Chad sold his business to investors and chose to travel with a few music artists across the U.S., as well as make a few TV appearances on TLC. While being on the road with an artist, he received a phone call that introduced him to his current wife via a longtime personal training client back in Nashville. A year later, he was off the road and married to his wife now for 18 years. Marriage and life led him to a new job position in clinical diagnostic sales with a company that he still works for today. Also, marriage allowed him to begin his focus on hunting more. So bow hunt, that's funny. Getting married leads you to be able to hunt more, specifically bow hunting, and literally diving back headfirst in soon became obsessed. He had to learn every aspect of the bow, which was many, and the engineering mechanics behind them. He was obsessed, soon learned to starting the company BOWADX, which is an archery lifestyle apparel company back in 2013. Chad has always had an itch for design, and he was originally going to be an art major in college before settling on biology. He started BOWADX in his garage, knowing very little about online sales and the apparel business, yet it started to take off. And he was blessed to have sold to all U.S. states in more than 20 countries within just a few years. Since then, as of September of last year, he launched a new company that goes along with BOWADX called, I'm not going to say this right, BOWADX, where he offers the most advanced European skull mounting solutions in the industry and have a number of patent pending designs incorporated into the units, including his industry revolutionizing telescopic arm on the UX1 wall mounting system, which takes Euro mounts to the next level, allowing them to more closely mimic true shoulder mounts of deer and other animals. Whoa, Chad, what a life. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chad Davis of BOWADX and UroAddicts. Thanks for joining me, buddy.
Thanks, Pete. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, you've done a lot already.
Yeah, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, I think. Still working on the mastering part.
I've been told that myself. We just like to try a lot of different things, don't we?
That's right. You know, if you're not trying, you're dying, I say at times. So
that's right.
Keep on at it. So
that's right. So BOWADX. All right. So we read about all this stuff that you've done, and I'm trying to decide, do I want to start with the fitness side or I want to go straight into BOWADX? If you've listened to my show, you know that I am opposed to fitness. I do not enjoy exercise or fitness at all. But I've had a lot of guests on here who are fitness people, personal trainers and fitness experts and people who really get into it. Let's talk about that for a minute. Well, okay. Why is that so important?
Well, as you read in the bio, it all stemmed from me being made fun of as a kid. And, by age, I guess it was age 13, actually right before I turned 13, there was a girl there at the middle school where we grew up. And back then, we had the Astro vans and what have you. So going on a date was your mom, driving you to the movies an Astro van and picking up your date. So it's kind of a funny story. Of course, at the time it wasn't, but there was one girl I was head over heels with, and we had this roll of bushes, big shrubs at the middle school there, and there was a girl I was interested in, and I had my best friend Marty ask her if she would go to the movies with me, and I just remember she was like, "Oh no, sick. He is gross, scrawny." Nah. And whatever that did, it just stemmed something in me, and I went home that day, found an old metal bar, just a real straight bar we had. I'm not sure what it was used for. And Dad, we had a barn, and I found some old metal plates, like disc type plates. So I got some masking tape, and I got it all to where it wouldn't, the disc wouldn't go anywhere, and so it looked like a barbell. It was kind of probably far from it, but I had that and an old carpet roll. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just did anything I could with that bar. And the first night, I think I probably worked out a couple of hours. Then I got to where just on that old carpet roll and this bar, I would spend 2 or 3 hours a night. Then I finally got some 2x4s, built the bench, took some of that carpet, made a nice pad on it, and it was janky, but it worked, and I kept going from there. Ended up working a full summer for my uncle for this Marcy unit universal machine. It had all the cables and all that good stuff, and probably some of the hardest work I've ever done too. So I got the short end of the stick on that one, but it just kind of led to one thing led to another, and just kind of really, I started seeing some gains, and I don't know why. Again, it's just this addictive personality of mine. Once I started seeing a little bit of progress, I thought, hey, I'm going to keep on at it. And back then we didn't have Google, we didn't have the internet, so you had mama. My mom would go to the grocery store, and I would pick up the magazines and read those, and just rip the pages out, and they'd have the routines, and that's kind of what I did. So it just led to where I eventually really started seeing some good changes. They called me Rice Man in school because I would take my turkey and rice and all my vegetables, and I was fortunate to have a guy who was a competitive bodybuilder who kind of got me into things as well at a young age, and he'd won a lot of big shows, and I looked up to him, and so he kind of took me under his wing and taught me a lot, and that kind of led me to where I was. Even as a senior in high school, I started doing personal training, and I picked up a few clients. The first client I ever had, I think she lost 84 pounds in about 5 months. So,
Wow.
Changed her life. And so it just, but for some reason, I can't remember a lot of things, but I can remember anything about the human body. It seems like I'm just, but I try to use those. I know I've been blessed in that area as far as being able to memorize and recall a lot of things I study. My background's in biochemistry. So I just, I try to use it for the right reasons to help people. And, so I've learned, I'm almost 50, Pete. So one thing I've learned is your body it's just a vessel. So I can't do what I used to be able to do. And so I train a lot smarter than harder nowadays. So.
Right. What's the difference, Chad, between fitness and bodybuilding? I mean, bodybuilding, it's like, to me, as I know anything about this, you're isolating muscle groups in order to make them look bigger and to swell them so they look prettier on the stage when you're doing this, versus just trying to get in shape and be toned.
Yeah. Both require methodical aspects, and to where you do have to be kind of methodical in what you're doing. But bodybuilding is kind of a few steps up, because the nutrition is massively important. You're in off season, it's all about what we call being in a growth stage. So you're eating quite a bit of food, but you're trying to eat the right food when you do it correctly, and trying to eat, let's say, 5,000 calories, clean calories. That's harder to me than just going out and eating Big Macs and what have you, because it's a lot of food. And then once you put the training behind it too, and you're trying to keep constant journals, notes, and all these good things to figure out what works for you, because what worked for me may not work for you, because there's different muscle fibers and all this good stuff. Some people are primarily red fiber tissue individuals, some are white fibers. So, that's all scientific stuff. Whereas just trying to get in basic health, I'm a big believer in Even if someone's trying to get in basic, good solid health, certain things like a food scale, those are good, are important, just because the vast majority of people, for instance, if they take a tablespoon of peanut butter with let's say a regular tablespoon, they'll scoop it out. And if they were to put that on, let's say a real actual teaspoon or tablespoon, measuring a little, whatchamacallit there, and scrape it off, usually they might be getting 2.5 tablespoons rather than a tablespoon. Same way with certain other things, they might be getting a serving and a half or 2 servings instead of 1 serving. And so those calories can add up. So it's good to have something that you can have this as a standard to learn from, to get you on track. And the older I get, the more emphasis I put on nutrition. And my wife and I, fortunately, and she eats really clean too, but I work out 3 days a week now, whereas when I competed, I was probably 6 days a week, 5 or 6 days a week. My cardio is much easier, steady state, low intensity, whereas when I was training back in the day, it may have been a little harder intensity here and there. But so just I just take it. I dropped it down probably about 5 or 6 notches from what I used to be able to do. So,
right. It's fascinating that nutrition plays that big of a role in your, not just your health, but in your fitness.
Yes.
Right? As somebody who doesn't know anything about it.
Yeah. Right? The older we get, I mean, there's so many vitamins and things out there, like your B vitamins. There's certain ones, B12, B6, B1. They're so intrinsically important for certain hormone productions that people aren't aware of, that when you look at the daily recommendations, a lot of people aren't getting nearly enough of that. They're not getting nearly enough of potassium, you name it. And all these things work synergistically together in the body to where either you run very efficiently, maybe semi-moderate, or not efficient at all. But the older I've gotten, the more I've had to really dive into the macro and micronutrition aspect of things, just trying to figure out, how to keep it simple, but what vitamins and minerals do I need, let's say, as an adult male, now more than ever, because as you get older, your body every year, for instance, there's one hormone called DHEA. By the time you're 70, you produce about 15 to 20% of what you did by age 30. So things like that can become very important, and just feeling well as an older gentleman, and having a body that's going to respond well to anything you throw at it. So,
yeah. And this is where, cause I'm 61, right?
Okay.
This is where, the supplement world is so confusing. There's so many companies now that make supplement where you got to have this, excuse me, you got to have that. You need this supplement or that supplement. And it's very confusing, and it's very expensive.
Yes.
And talking to my doctor about it, should I do this or that? He said, all you're doing is making your urine very expensive. That's all you're doing. It's not really helping that much.
Yeah.
So helping you that.
Yeah. So I tend to disagree with that a little bit. Well, on certain things, I do 100% agree with that. Yet the food we eat now is drastically different in the amount of let's say, minerals, vitamins that it had in it at one time. I read a study here a while back where a tomato, as far as the nutrientation in that, is about 60% less than what it was 25 years ago. And so when you look at that, and when you look at the recommended daily allowance of certain things, you realize that a lot of people aren't getting certain things they need in certain foods. Like for me, I'm pretty simple. I take a multivitamin. Sometimes I do 1.5, because I want to get there's certain things I'm looking for as a male. I want to get my zinc. But the problem is, let's say the average male only needs about 18 milligrams of zinc, whereas you go buy zinc tablets and they're 50 milligrams. Well, if you take 50 milligrams of zinc and a multivitamin, then all of a sudden, you might be at 65 or 70, plus you're getting some in food. Well, then your body will do what we call down regulation. If you feed your body too much of anything, it can be like, well, I got too much of this, and it can down regulate later on, where you are doing more harm than good. But for most people, a good multivitamin, some sometimes like a B complex, and sometimes I'll just cut those in half. I'll take, and there's something called vitamin K2, which I'm a big fan of. It helps you to absorb vitamin D and things, and I'll take that with magnesium. So that I'll probably take about maybe 7 or 8 different vitamins and minerals, maybe not all at once, but I don't overtake those, because it's not like you can't think more is better. So a lot of these vitamins and things I take, I have to cut them in half, or things like that too. And because even, let's say, B vitamins, if you start taking a ton of those, you can start having neurological issues, tingling, burning, then some things that can cause permanent damage. So it's just, it's good to be safe, but I call it bro science. A lot of times you can't use bro science, or that, I want to make sure I'm using, looking at it really. Basically, I look at the RDA of things, what the recommendations are, and I try to stick with those levels. If I think I'm not getting enough in certain things, I try not to go much above that at all. And that way, pretty much vitamin D, multivitamin, maybe a half of a B complex, and maybe a little bit of a zinc tablet. And I think that's pretty much, well, magnesium, take magnesium, and that's pretty much it. I guess that's about 5 things.
Right.
Maybe the K2, if I didn't mention that, but 5 to 7, different things.
So how are the vitamins different from supplements?
So when I think of supplementation, I'm thinking of, let's say, like an amino acid supplement, which some of those can be helpful. A lot of those amino acids, let's say you'll see, protein powders. I tend to think of those more as supplements, as supplemental aspects of food, to where, let's say, during the day, I break all my meals down into macros. Like, for instance, my next meal is going to be about 45 grams of protein, probably 45 grams of carbs, and about 12 or 15 grams of fat. So if I can't eat a meal, I'll just have a quick shake that'll give me that macro content. And and so I count that as a supplemental meal, I guess you would say. And then when I work out, sometimes I'll take what's called EAAs, which is like essential amino acids, and that just allows my body to kind of, as I'm training, you start breaking down tissue and all this good stuff. It kind of gives my body what it needs, so it can shuttle those into my muscle, into the muscle cell. It allows them to kind of grow and repair a lot faster. But I don't take what I used to. I mean, I used to just go overboard and stuff. And then again, if you start taking too much, then you get kidney issues and liver issues, because you're just, you're overdoing it. So, yeah.
And that's the fear that I have as an older man, and who wants to live at least another 40 years. And I say that seriously, what do you take that's going to help and not harm? Because I know I am getting older, and therefore I know I need some of these vitamins, or maybe a supplement here or there, but which ones? Because like I said, it's so many companies, and they're all advertising the same thing. And like I said, that they're so expensive. So I'm going to say, for a listener out there, consult with your doctor
100%.
and have them run some blood tests, and say, like I did several months ago, and say, Pete, your vitamin D is very low. So we're going to give you this to take once a week. It's a pretty strong dose to get it back up. And your B12 is very low. So we're going to give you these injections for a while until we get it caught back up, and things of that nature. But consult with your doctor, find out what your body really needs.
Yep.
And then start from there.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of what I do. And, and that's one reason, you look at some B vitamins, and they'll have like, 6,000% of your RDA of vitamin B12. It's like, who needs 6,000%? So that's why sometimes I'll cut those into quarters, and so but I see that a lot, where, there's copper, you don't want too much of that, but you need it for absorption of zinc and all these different things. But typically a good multivitamin, I mean, most people, that will be just fine. I do like the vitamin D. I take 2,000 units every day, just because I don't get out in the sun. When I competed, I would have to, sadly, I'd get in the tanning beds. You had to step on stage and be darker, because you wanted that helped the muscles to look bigger. And I lived in those things, and lived in the sun. And now I've had all this skin cancer removed. I've got probably 100 stitches worth of different spots on my back from skin cancer. So I avoid the sun like the plague now. So I don't, I have to pretty much get my vitamin D from the tablets. but that, and I am a big fan of like magnesium. I think a lot of people tend to be a little lower, especially in the summer. You start sweating certain things out. Potassium. I used to not realize how much, like, I think the RDA for potassium is like 4,500 milligrams. And a lot of people don't get anywhere close to that. So most tablets are like 90 milligrams. Well, each tablet is only 2% of your daily recommendation.
Wow.
And so, it's pretty amazing kind of how much of some of that you need, because your sodium, potassium things, they're super important. They're like pumps in your body, pumping things in and out. There are certain things where I do think it is good to supplement if a person's not getting enough of certain things. Again, magnesium, maybe a couple hundred milligrams a day, and then the potassium. I probably take about 5 or 6 of those a day, and I still may not get I eat very good and very clean, but I still don't know if I get my RDA of potassium. But I try to get, things like that just to make sure I'm not under where I need to be on some of those things.
Right. And for the listener, the RDA is recommended daily allowance, by the way.
Yes.
Wow. We could talk this entire show and then some about, about vitamins and supplements and stuff. But I was just fascinated by reading your bio about how you went, you were the scrawny kid who became the bodybuilder, right? Like Charles Atlas used to promote back in the day, and been so many people who have done that, but that also led to other things in your life as well. And the one that I really want to talk about more is your BOWADX and how that came about. Cause I have seen it, the apparel at other shows, and wonder, what is that? What is BOWADX? Who are they? What are they all about? So tell us about that real quick. Okay. But before we do, let's take a minute to pause and get a word from one of our sponsors, if we may. Hello, everyone. This portion of the show is being brought to you by High Mountain Seasonings. With the fall hunting season starting, one of my favorite ways to use my game meat is making jerky. And as long as I've been making jerky, I've found that the kits from High Mountain Seasoning are the easiest, best tasting, and complete sets on the market today. With 7 different flavors to choose from, the jerky kits from High Mountain Seasoning are your go-to choice for game meat jerky. And you can find out more at highmtnjerky.com. So now tell us about BOWADX.
Yeah, Pete. So I started BOWADX in 2013. And so I remember, so I'm in clinical diagnostic sales. Fortunately now I work entirely from home. At the time I was in the field driving, and roughly every time we would get a new company car, you have about 3 to 5 months where we would get free Sirius, whatever it is, radio.
Yeah.
And every time I'd be in that car, it seemed like one commercial kept popping up, and it was a commercial about people who started their businesses in their garage, and they made millions of dollars, whether it be Apple, Steve Jobs, or Microsoft, Gates, and different ones. And I was like, I know I can't do anything like that. I'm not smart enough to do that. Yeah. But I kept hearing it, and I thought, I really got into archery just in a major way. And I thought maybe I could start an archery apparel company. And not only that, but my faith was very, very important to me, and I wanted to do it in a way that where we could incorporate the faith aspect into it, which is kind of the cornerstone for me. And so I wanted to marry those two together. And at the time, a lot of the shirts back then were they had a lot of fire and smoke and flames all over the place, and then he had Under Armour on the other side. He was kind of clean, sleek, and I felt that at the time there was a gap in the market, an opportunity to kind of bring that more of an Under Armour clean, sleek look and feel to the market. And so I said, hey, let me give that a shot. So started it. Actually, the originally it was BOWADDICTS, like BOWADX in that way.
Yeah.
Had a design and sat on that for about a year, doing a lot of praying about it and what have you, and just didn't feel exactly comfortable with that design. And so I was in a tree in Kentucky hunting with my dad, and remember sitting there just kind of just brainstorming. How it is in a tree. You think a lot.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, and then that's kind of where I came up with Bo and the ADX for addicts. And I thought, oh, wow, I kind of like that. And I thought, I wanted to bring the faith aspect into it. You'll see the cross here.
Yeah.
So we got the cross in the middle, kind of the broadhead looking outer emblem. So, came up with the idea, came home, spoke to my wife about it. She loved the name. And I was trying to find different designers because back then I didn't know how to design. I had a, kind of an eye for things, but I didn't know how to use Photoshop and Illustrator and all these different things. So I remember I was watching Major League Bowhunter and saw their logo and was like, hey, that's pretty cool. I wonder who did their stuff. So I actually reached out to them. I know Jeff pretty well, and I reached out and got their contact from Mark Danker, who designed their logo. So Mark, he shot me so many logos. And I was amazed at what he did. And he kind of sent this when we have another one with our skull. And I was like, man, that is it. Home run. So we,
now, is that Jeff's brother?
Yeah. I think Mark is Jeff's cousin, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may be wrong on that. I think he's his first cousin.
He's a danker either way.
He's a danker. Yeah. So, and fantastic guy. So he, he started our designs, and then I eventually got to where I learned Photoshop, learned Illustrator, the design programs. So after about 2 years, I kind of started gradually picking up on things and taking over. But we started, out of the gate, and as it said in my bio, I had no clue how to do anything. And, you're trying to learn the whole online game, and which has changed dramatically over the last few years. But started doing some shows.
So you're having to source shirts.
Actually,
shirts.
Oh, well,
shirts. Yes. Go ahead. How does that work?
We pretty much did all the printing's done here locally for us. So I had actually one of my old clients for my fitness center. His son had opened up a print shop. And so I've got his contact and used him, and we've used them for the most part for the last we've had a few others do some things, and occasionally I can print stuff on my end. It's just time challenge for me, but so everything is printed pretty much here locally, and we're really blessed to like I say, I think we've sold to it's every state in the U.S. and I think maybe now 32 countries, something like that.
Okay.
But basically what we do, we typically come out with about 4 shirts a year. We'll do like a faith-based t-shirt, I put clean, modern or mainstream tee. We stay clean on those, and then another faith-based tee and a modern, and we're leaning more toward the majority being all faith-based t-shirts now, just because there are so many apparel companies. They're opening up every week. So
that was my next question. Why the apparel? It's such a flooded market.
It is. And
such a flooded market.
So when we got started, we had very little competition.
Really?
But now this was back when you had Realtree. Back then there was BowLife. Now, I think Levi Morgan owns BowLife now, but back then it was owned by a different group, and really Bone Collector, maybe one other, and that's about all the competition we had. So I'll be very honest, we were rocking and rolling. Sales were fantastic. Online is our bread and butter. 99% of our sales come from online. We had some dealers and retail outlets. Lancaster Archery carried us, for a long time. But after COVID hit, a lot of things started shifting. A lot of retail outlets kind of started pulling away gradually a little bit from the apparel side of things. And so we pretty much focus entirely on our online sales. We were doing some shows and what have you, in different deer and turkey expos and what have you. But even those, the foot traffic has changed a little bit. The way people buy is somewhat different now. A lot of people can go online and they'll shop around there, but it seems the vast majority will buy online and either later that week or a month or two later and things like that. So we have switched the way we do things. You try to adapt, And as you said, with the flooded market, you can do a lot of things, but in the end, it's all about the ROI. It's all about the net. So you can spend $20,000 and sell $22,000, but if you only netted 2,000 when you could have done that online and maybe you net 8,000, you're still better off. Even though the gross is less. So it's things like that where we have really learned to adapt.
And as somebody who's not in I do try to sell some of these on my website, but it's like a very small portion of things that I do. Right. But the turkey show this year was the best attended it's been in a decade or more. Mm-hmm. Right. I don't know if you live in Nashville. You're probably right.
Yeah,
there
we went there for a day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you saw all the apparel companies there.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere.
I don't know if I've ever seen that many.
I hadn't either. I had never. And that's why I brought it up. And I even asked them, I said, how in the world? I mean, two booths down, another one, then there's another one, then there's another one, and they're paying all that money, buying all that inventory, hoping they're going to sell it.
You hit the nail on the head, and that's what people don't see, because you have to prep, and so I know we might spend $15,000 on prepping. I mean, not counting the cost of the show. You're trying to make sure you have enough inventory to sell to where you don't sell out. I mean, it's good if you do, but let's say you have all that inventory. You have the cost of the show, your travel, everything else. The next thing you know, you may have $20,000 in it. And if someone goes there and sells 10, 12, 15, $20,000, you didn't make anything. And yeah. So, and when there's that much competition, a lot of it becomes too where you're located. Because if you're located way in the back, way in the back or somewhere else, by the time
you're done,
they don't have any more money to spend. So to be very honest, because when my wife and I walked through that show, I'm like, I'm glad we didn't do it for on the BOWADX side. Now on the EuroAddicts, we can talk about that a little bit later. But on the BOWADX side, last year we ran a sale online and ended up making more money on online sales than what we did at the show when it comes to net. Yeah.
And I mean, working these shows is just so exhausting anyway. On top of that, right? Mm-hmm. But you live in Nashville, so it's a lot cheaper for you. Somebody like me, I'd have to pay hotel and per diems for my people helping me and food, and you got the booth rental, and you got all that inventory. And what if you only sell a third of your inventory?
Yeah,
you got $15,000. You got $15,000 tied up in inventory. Yeah, in shirts and caps and decals or whatever else that you're selling. Yeah. And then you come home with $12,000 worth of inventory. Now, what am I going to do with all this?
Yeah, it has happened so many times, and and some people may not be honest about that. I hear people say, "Oh, we had a fantastic show," and come to find out, everybody's in the same boat. But it's not. And we used to do shows. I mean, absolutely do insanely well. But it just seemed after about 2018 or 19, things just started slowly shifting.
Yeah.
And let's say at the NWTF, and it's a fantastic show, but if someone, let's say they don't have their membership and all of a sudden, they've got a family of 4, they're out a good chunk of money, out the travel, out, it by the next thing they've already spent $300-400 or more. They haven't even bought anything.
Right.
And it's made it what we noticed when we walked into that show and walking out, we were purposely looking at people carrying bags. I would probably say we may have seen 8 to 10 people, 10% of the people carrying bags out, which means they weren't buying a lot.
Right.
And when you do that, it's good for exposure, but sometimes there are better ways to get that exposure and have a better ROI versus going to these shows. And again, I used to do it because I was like, man, if we don't do it, people are going to be like, why are we not there and this and that. But you have to be smart about those, how you're spending money as a company, and again, focus on that net profit.
Yeah.
And because gross won't get you anywhere.
It doesn't get you anywhere. And you end up with a ton of inventory that you can't hardly get rid of. It sits in the warehouse for years trying to get, and now you got new patterns coming out, new designs. And what are you going to do with these 300 shirts that you have?
And because even online sales are not what they used to be. I have conversations with some individuals in the outdoor industry on a weekly basis, and it is the whole industry social media, as good as it is, it has allowed so many individuals to get into the industry. And let's say some of these companies, maybe, let's say they're subpar, but if Johnny out here's got a group of friends, they want to support Johnny and they buy his stuff, but then all of a sudden, like, well, I don't need, I can't buy this because I just bought that.
Right.
The
Right.
economy, the way it is now, has made it very tough on people. A lot of our bread and butter customers, they're 9-to-5 guys, and they're just trying to put food on the table, put gas in the truck, you name it. And I've had plenty of people to reach out to us and be like, hey, once I get paid next Friday, I'm going to buy that new shirt. I'm like, dude, I'll tell them, do not buy it. Focus on your family.
Yeah.
Family first. Don't buy this T-shirt.
Yeah.
I'm glad you want it, but that's that's kind of the state that we're in right now, and it makes it very challenging. So for anybody out there listening, I know, because I feel so bad. I have people to reach out to me all the time. Hey, I want to start an apparel company. I want to start this. And I know they probably think I'm saying certain things because I'm trying to discourage them, because, they're probably thinking I don't want competition, which, I mean, obviously I wouldn't like, I prefer not to have more competition, but in reality, it's much as easy it is to get exposure to some extent. And that's not even as easy as it used to be because of the algorithm changes, and you got to pay to play. But there is so much competition out there that you can have the best product in the world, but if you've got 80 other companies out there nipping at your heels, pulling, they're still getting a pretty good chunk of sales, and as that increases, it just kind of dissolves things. So that's kind of where the industry is. I see it in the broadhead industry. You see
I was going to mention broadheads.
yeah. I had a conversation.
I was going to mention it.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a guy at the ATA. He's one of the head guys there at the ATA show, and we were talking about that, because, I mean, even again, there are ways to get those made. I mean, that getting manufactured. I mean, it's just, I mean, I've got fantastic broadhead ideas that I would love to bring to market, but 2 or 3 things. I've got people in the industry that I wouldn't want to combat against them, and not only that, I know how it seems like every year there's another broadhead. I'm like, well, who
or more.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where that you do have those certain companies that have, let's say, a product that's hot, that they're on the top of their game and they're doing well, but let's say that's the top 10%, maybe 4%, 3%, and then everybody else is like, they're just trying to get by. They're doing all these shows, killing themselves, working countless hours.
Yeah.
And then you just burn yourself out. And then it's like, hey, but that's kind of the industry as a whole. I would probably tell a lot of people, as much as I love the outdoor industry, maybe have something that might be, maybe it's kind of outdoor driven, but you could actually hit markets a little bit outside of the outdoor industry too, to give you a little broader scope of things. But yeah, but that's, like I say, it's changed, but
it's funny you say that, because being in the outdoor industry as we are, go to the ATA and you go to SHOT Show and you go to all these places, right? And you say, just like I was going to mention broadheads, but you did ahead of time, is that how many different ways can you cut a hole? Yeah. I mean, that's really what it's doing. And every year it's like, well, we haven't done this. We don't have the 450 grain single bevel eviscerator that opens up to 14 inches on impact. Good gosh. I mean, and it's $120 each.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it. The cost of certain things is so high.
Oh, it's crazy.
And, and I tend to find, if I find what works for me, I try to stick with it. I mean, I've got a couple of heads that I've had for probably 15 years, and I won't say the name now, but I've got one company that I shoot a lot. I like, but some of these tried and true broadheads they work so well. If if it's not broke, don't fix. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. And
so, but
yeah. And we're not sponsored by any broadhead companies, although if somebody wants to, you can reach out to me at Pete@ChristianOutdoors.org. But that was a joke. But we're not sponsored by any. But I've had several companies that make them up and comers on the show. And you go back to some of the older ones. I know we're off point a little bit here. Some of the older ones, like a Muzzy, for example, for as long as I can remember, there's been Muzzy broadheads. Okay. And they are basically the same as they were when Mr. Muzzy, I know that's not his name, but when he invented it, back in
Yeah.
this early 70s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the same broadhead. You know what? It still does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I used
And,
that's what I started out with, Muzzies.
but what you find is in the archery world, I find it more than in the gun world, is that people are so brand loyal. They are so brand loyal. I only shoot a Hoyt. I only shoot a Matthews. I only shoot a Bear. I only shoot Easton 5mm arrows, and I got to shoot a Muddy Head. And they don't really change very much. They're so brand loyal, and they drive a Ford pickup truck or whatever it is. I drive a Ram, by the way, for the Ram people out there. And so it's like when you're trying to break into that, whether it's a broadhead or whether it's an arrow or fletchings, whatever, that's a tough nut to crack. And
It
now,
is.
as you said, with the apparel companies that have just exploded in the last 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
how many different, it just blows my mind.
Well, it's designed. So for instance, our best selling shirt is we have an iron sharpens iron t-shirt, by far a bestseller. And we're always reordering that one. Well, so I had to send emails out for stop of sales last week for a company. When I say they plagiarized my design, I mean, they copied it. It looked like they put it on a printer. So they took it off the market. Then last Friday, I guess just, Friday evening, I see it on a company out of Hong Kong. They're selling Christian, shirts and archery shirts and gym shirts. Well, they took that same design. So it must be the same parent company, So I've got to message them later today because I own the intellectual property, right? So that, so I've got to go after them. So, but it's things like that where, like if I have a design for a t-shirt, I can't share it with anybody. I can't tell you how many times where, I made the mistake of sharing it with one person. Oh, I'm not going to share this with anybody. Next thing you know, my design's out there. So that happens so many times, I can't count. But it's things like that where, and fortunately for us, what has helped us the most is brand loyalty, being in the business for so long. We've got customers that own every single shirt we offer. We've got that residual business, people that when they order, some people order like today, and one of the orders that just came in, it's like, 6 or 7 t-shirts. So different designs. It's things like that help. But I will be very honest and just say it's not, after COVID, that year was great for us because people were at home. They had nothing else to do but buy and shop online. But really after COVID, sales across the board just gradually, for a lot of companies, have gradually dropped. And I don't think it's from people not wanting a product. I just think, as you said, it's a saturated market. There's so much out there. A man can only have so many caps. He can only have so many t-shirts. And unless a person can figure out something different, because we were about to launch a camo line. I've got a camo design that I absolutely love. It's modern meets old school, but it's like, but again, I know if I did that, the amount of SKUs you'd have for smalls, medium, XL, and if you do it, you got to do it right. Then you got your early season, mid season, late season. Next thing you know, you're out, $1 million without selling anything.
Easy.
Then you got to market it. And then, and to push all that. I mean, and so, it's things like that where, I'll kind of finish, I guess, with the camel side. And I remember when we had Realtree, mossy oak, and that was about it.
That was it.
Yeah.
Tree bark. We had tree bark.
Yeah. And now, I mean, it's like every year there's 1 or 2 more camo companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine. I can see the dream a lot of guys have, but it's all about timing. I'll say that in this market, I think 100% of the time it's about timing. If you get in at the right time with the right product, you can do well. You get in at the wrong time when you've got this vast, set of competition. Got other companies out there that you're competing against. If you don't have something that's truly, I'm talking truly, sets you apart and adds a ton of value to that customer, I think, I'm not saying, saying it's a setup for disaster, but I'm saying, it'd be very hard to see a lot of penetration in this industry to get to where someone would want to be and really make it. So you can get by sometimes, but getting by and really doing well are 2 different things too. So
yeah, because you work just as hard, right? And like in the camo space, we all know, if you pay any attention outdoor industry style, that mossy oak and realtree contain 95% of the market.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody else is fighting for that 5%.
Yeah.
Everybody else, whether it's Sitka, Kuiu, Cryptech, Natural Gear, I'm just throwing the ones that come to mind right now. And there's a lot of other ones too. That are fighting for that 5%, and they're getting 0.3, 0.4, 0.2, and everybody else is getting that 5% because mossy oak and realtree, you know what? Because they were first.
Yeah, right.
And they make good products.
Right? They get a lot of royalties out. I mean, it's
a lot of royalties. And mossy oak, who I'm partial to because I'm on their pro staff, is it's a culture. It's not just a pattern.
Right.
Just like BOWADX, the people that are with BOWADX, it becomes a culture and not just a shirt.
Yeah. Well, so like for anything we ship out, I do a handwritten note, and I have spent at times 4 to 6 hours a day writing notes at times. And during Christmas, I mean, it's just, you wrote all day long, you're writing notes because, we try to take it to the, the next step, let people know, hey, we appreciate your business, but it's hard to do that. But in this industry, and again, that's what helped us, is getting started so early to where it got us some brand recognition, because now even the cost, I remember where I could pay $100 on, let's say, Instagram to boost a post, and that $100 might get me 50,000 views. That same $100 now, you might get 2,000 views. Same way, let's say on our page, we would do a post, we get 800 to 1,000 likes, way more views, but that's just likes. Now you do the same thing and you might get 40 or 50 likes. And so we ran numbers, and we're getting a little less than 2% views on post. And that is not good when you're trying to sell products, so
it's not. And I mean, cause I pay for advertising on Instagram, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're spending all this money.
Yeah.
And it's like, what kind of, but what, and you talk about something ROI hard to track. Oh, that's one hard to track. Try to figure that out.
And, and that I did read a report in Sandy. I had to travel to San Diego. I remember this is a few months after Instagram had changed their algorithms, and that it was a TV program, but they said there was a 56% decline in social media driven business revenue in that 6 months time frame. It was getting worse just because of the algorithm changes, where they made it harder for your people to see your post, and having to pay to play, and them each year making that dollar reach far less customers, year over year.
Far less. Yeah. Like you said, I think I don't know. I don't remember what I'm paying a month now, just to be honest with you, but it's supposed to reach 30 to 50,000 people, and it's not. Yeah. I'm like, well, why you charge me that if it's not doing that? That's what you're promising me on that side. And those are saying, because I can. That's why. Because I can.
They can put it out there, but they can also put it in places where people just aren't going to see it. And that's what we see too. We've got we run ads and be like, wow, we're not getting the response.
Yeah, because they're showing it to vegans. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about it. A lot of people that have reached out to me like, hey, I saw your ad. I'm like, that's not a person I'm targeting. This is like an at-home mom who has nothing to do with bow hunting,
Yeah.
And they can make it hit 100,000 people. If it's the wrong people, that's not helping either. So
doesn't help you whatsoever. Not whatsoever. So I'm looking at some of your shirts right here now. You got some really cool designs. You really do. You really do. And it's we'll get to this at the end, but it's BOWADX.com, BOWADX.com, and we'll do that later. This would be a good time to transition because you've been talking about your faith a lot, Chad. But I want to get in some more detail about your personal story right after we get back from this ad from one of our sponsors. We're fortunate here at Christian Outdoors to have quality companies supporting our mission, and Mueller Optics is a perfect example of this. Since 2007, Mueller Optics has had one mission: to bring the passion of hunting and shooting to everyone. Mueller Optics' aim is to offer top-tier rifle scopes that won't break your budget, making quality optics more attainable for enthusiasts like us. Now, I started using Mueller Optic scopes last season. Not only was I impressed with the cost of these scopes, but the quality of the glass and the ease of operation was as good or better than other brands costing 3, 4, 5 times as much as the Mueller Optic scopes do. Whether you're building the rifle for the hunt of a lifetime, an ultimate whitetail setup, or trying to make your 22 perfect for small game hunting and plinking, Mueller Optics has a scope for you that will outperform any other scope in its price point. And to further help Christian Outdoors, if you use promo code COP for Christian Outdoor Podcast, COP35 at checkout, you will save 35% on your purchase. Just go to MuellerOptics.com to find out more. All right, Chad. So you've been mentioning a lot about how important your faith is. It's all over your shirts. You know, I'm just a vessel, blessed, John 3:16, Jesus loves you, saved by Jesus. I like that one. You got a lot of them on here. So
yeah.
Let's go back to where that all started. Did you grow up in a Christian home? Did something happen later in life? Tell us your story.
Yeah, I did. I grew up, my dad, my mom, they had us in church every, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, small town. I always say our town had a mirror on one side of it to make it look bigger, but real small town. And so, we could pretty much walk to church if we wanted, but it was just one of those things I grew up doing. And it became a big part of my life. And I was fortunate to have a good dad and mom who instilled faith in me at a young age. And ended up in college, I ended up actually getting a youth ministry minor. So my degree is in biochemistry, and then I have a minor in youth ministry. I was able to go to Alaska and do youth ministry there in Anchorage. And I got a black bear and a caribou here in my office where I took that in Alaska. But my faith, it's always been a big part of me. And I'm pretty honest to say that probably see about when I got out of college, I didn't get crazy wild or anything like that, but it sadly, I was never a person to really be affected or to have peer pressure from peers. I mean, I did to some extent, I did because, you want to be the popular kid. And I'll throw this because I got ADD. I'll throw this one thing for the young guys out there. I remember in high school, and my best friend, he got into drinking and doing some drugs and what have you. And he was a popular kid. I mean, he was probably, the first or second most popular kid in their class and all this stuff. And we hung out, and I didn't do any of that. And I got made fun of a lot. People call me, gay, different things, because on the weekends I was working out, instead of going to the parties. I just didn't do it. Mm-hmm. But I'd go home crying a lot of times just because I just wanted to fit in, want to be that popular kid or like the popular kids. And I remember he had a wreck and they had to cut him out with the jaws of life. He was stuck in his car for over 3 hours, hit a tree, it ripped, they almost cut his arm off. They were able to kind of piece it back together and stuff. But I remember being with him about maybe 4 or 5 months later. It was a long process of recovery. And he just broke down to me one night and said, "Chad," he said, "I just want to let you know, I've always wanted to be more like you. You haven't gotten into drinking, and then you don't smoke, you don't do all the drugs." And he said, "Man, I've fell by the wayside basically, and I've just gotten that, and that whole time I wanted to be more like him." And that's where I try to let these kids know, hey, there's always someone else trying to set their watch to your clock. Somebody out there is they want to, and the way what I mean by that too, they're trying, they're off time a little bit, they're going down the wrong path, and they need to be they need their time, they need a reset, and then having someone that they can look up to and say, okay, I want to be 12 o'clock pointing north, pointing towards God or whatever, here I am, right. Here I'm at 6 o'clock going the opposite direction, but having, you never know the what type of example you can be setting to someone else, and then you don't know who all is looking at you. But going back to, I guess, to where I was, going from there, I do remember not having too big of an issue at that age. But when I got into, I started working for a company called Clayton Homes. It's not in my bio, but I was outside of college. My first job was I had owned a pressure cleaning company in college. Then I did some work for a guy. Anyhow, he got me a position with Clayton Homes where I was a wholesale rep. And I traveled like 4 or 5 different states. Well, I kind of took a little turn then because I got those older guys in their 40s, and back then I was 22 or 3. That's kind of where that peer pressure was a little bit harder on me. Kind of took a turn, and where you almost put Jesus in the back seat. And it's like, hey, I'm driving this ship. I'll pull you out when I need you to help me. And so that's kind of where I kind of started taking a wrong turn with my life. And I remember when I started my fitness center after doing a lot of bad things, I became a man I did not want to be. And I hit dirt bottom, and remember getting on my knees with someone who I dated for about 3 years at the time, and saying, hey, listen, I got to quit going to all these clubs. I got to quit. I got to get myself out of that, and I got to turn my life around. And she left me in a parking lot, said, I'm not ready for that. And me bawling my eyes out, get on my knees. That night I'd say, God, I'm tired of chasing everybody else. I'm yours. And when I did that, I really gave everything up and started really, truly not just becoming like a Sunday morning pew packer, because I do things on Saturday night, you know how it is, and Sunday, I better go to church. But when I changed my trajectory fully towards God, because I believe God's a jealous God. It's easy to where, hey, I love God, I do this and that, but if you don't really live it, you're not bearing fruit. And I was not bearing fruit. Nobody would have known me from atheist or Christian, whatever. They might have said, oh, he's a decent guy. But when I did that, everything gradually started changing for the better. And just a short time later, maybe just a few months later, I'm on the road with the country. I sold my gym. I'm on the road with a country artist. And one of my old clients, she lost like 136 pounds with me. She called me and she was like, Dad, I had no idea how I can repay you for helping me out, to lose all this weight. And she always told me she wanted to introduce me to my wife. Well, sure enough, my wife, who dated a guy for 7 years, she ended up introducing us, and she broke up with him. I broke up with that girl, and we were both on the same path. And so that one thing led to another, and 4 months later, I asked her to marry me, which I can't believe. Never would I ever thought that. But we just knew we were on the same path. But my faith is so important to me, and then I'm willing to put that on our shirts, and you'll see that, like you said, on some of the shirts. I try to be bold about that. Anytime I'm working out, and anytime usually last night I had the Jesus Loves You shirt, and it gives me a chance to try to live by example too, to where hopefully someone can see me wearing that shirt, see that I talk differently, act differently, try to carry myself differently, in a way that shines for God. And those shirts to me that we have can be like icebreaker shirts, to where they can be conversation starters, where someone can say, hey man, I like that shirt. We hear the amount of people who reach out to us and say, hey, I was on an elevator, I was doing this, and then all of a sudden this shirt started a conversation, and we're praying together, hugging, this person's fine. That's what it's about. And that's why I wanted these shirts, to where and I know I'm going off the edge here, but I'm not, it's hard for me to be, some people have the gift of gab, and I can talk a lot, but some people have that gift where, they're like a preacher who they can it just comes to them. I don't have
just talk to anybody. Yeah.
I don't have it, but I was printing that I can't remember if it was Saved by Jesus or the Jesus Love You, one of those shirts the other day, and I broke down crying. I listened to Christian music, and I personally print a lot of those shirts, and I was listening to Christian music, and it was a Toby Mac song, and it was like a Let Your Words Inspire something. And I was like, sometimes I'm not good at talking, but if I can be a living example, and if I can let that speak for me, if I can let these shirts, this simple thing of trying to produce a shirt that maybe someone who's good at talking, but they can brighten someone's day, maybe bring someone closer to God. Maybe I can do that. And hopefully these shirts will inspire. So that's kind of where it's just, the whole backbone of BOWADX is that, Pete, we support a lot of charities through it. We support several kids every month through it. We try to do a lot of good with the sales of each shirt, and each shirt will feed a kid. I forget how many days it will feed a kid through a lot of the purchases. Through one of the groups is, I think, we do like feed the children, feed the starving children, and there's Compassion, World Vision, different ones.
Right.
So, but yeah, so that's kind of the backbone of BOWADX.
Yeah. Man, what a great story about your faith, though, about how important it is, and that you're not ashamed. Was Romans 1:16 said, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel," blah blah blah. That you're bold about it, and it even tells us in Hebrews we should approach the throne of grace with boldness. And I see you being bold about it. A lot of us are not. A lot of Christian men, particularly, are just a little bit uneasy about sharing our faith, how our peers going to look at us, how our coworkers going to look at us. Oh, there's a Jesus freak or whatever. But we're not supposed to be ashamed of it. We're supposed to be bold with it. And I love the fact that you have merged your love for Jesus and your love for the outdoors into one place through this apparel company. You got I love this one. Real Men Love Jesus. I like that one a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
You got a lot of good ones. You got a lot of good ones on here, man. It's BOWADX.com. So
thank you. Yeah. We'll be revamping some of those. We got some new, like the Real Man Loves Jesus. We'll probably revamp that one to where it'll say the same thing, but kind of we've got we're trying
a different design, but the same.
Yeah,
same
because
message.
some of those, like the Genesis 27:3 shirt we have there, we had a totally different design. I designed that one, I guess, about several months ago. But it's just, those are the OGs, I guess you say, some of the originals. And so people, they like the message. So we're trying to relaunch and offer some newer designs for those too. So
yeah, I like the Squatch one too. Kind of a Bigfoot.
Yeah,
I like that kind of stuff. That's good stuff, Chad. It really is. So we're running out of time here. We didn't even get to your Euro addicts, but maybe we can come back and do that another time.
Yeah. So it is super cool when they see it, and it's BOWADX.com. If
I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So it's
what it is, real quickly, it's a different way to display your Euro mounts, like mine right here behind me. Turn right there. It's just hanging on a nail on the wall. Right. And I got that one because the velvet is still on the antler.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought that was cool. So that's why I did that one that way. He's not very big, but it's okay for South Carolina. But I love the fact that you can position it as opposed to just hanging on a wall there.
Yeah. You can turn this thing, this
it's got knuckles on it and
360 degrees.
That's really sick.
I put everything. You got your modular piece here for the wall. Yeah, it is super sweet as far as what you can do with it. But we'll have to discuss it because it's and we're going to do one more enhancement that we're working on right now too. But it's been a super good success with the tabletop. It's been fantastic too. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So BOWADX.com, and I'll put Euro Addicts in the show notes as far as the link with that as well. Is there I guess it's the same way on all social media, tell people how to get a hold of you?
Yeah. They can Instagram is BOWADX, Euro Addicts, UROADX. And I've got my personal page. It's actually Chad, CHADRYAN Davis, DAVIS. So Chad Ryan Davis, or at Chad Ryan Davis is my personal page. And if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to. But it's pretty much the same for Facebook. We've got a TikTok. I don't do as much on TikTok. Probably should, but I can't keep up with it all.
I don't do TikTok either. It's just Facebook and Instagram for us. Chad Davis with BOWADX. Thank you for joining me here on Christian Outdoors, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete.